Hello world. For today's video, I'm doing something a little different. I decided to do an interview, and I interviewed my wife, Tessera, who is very special. Not only because she's my wife, but it also makes her my primary caregiver. And so I decided it was probably a good idea to just talk to her about what it means, and so that people can get an idea of it, and get an idea what it's like to be part of the family or in a relationship with someone who is sick, and maybe it can help them as well. So enjoy the interview. So Tessera, we'll start at the beginning. You've been a caregiver for longer than that you've known me because of your dad.
Yes. Yeah.
Can you explain a bit the situation with your dad and what role you played as a caregiver?
Well, the first time I noticed my dad wasn't healthy was actually when I was 9, I believe. But he already had symptoms before that. And slowly as I grew up and were in my teen years, he started getting sicker and sicker. And he actually had a couple of sicknesses. And they kind of started accumulating. And it got to a point that he was in a wheelchair. Well, first, of course, crutches. So at a certain point, he was in a wheelchair, and he had a very big wound on his leg, from like his heel till almost to the back of his knee. So the calf and the Achilles piece were, Achilles tendons. Sorry, was actually exposed. And me and my mom in the beginning took a little bit care of the wound, but it got a bit too much, so we had special nurses come to our house who would take care of the wound. And at a certain point he also had cancer. So that was also one of the things I really struggled when the first time you got cancer. It's like, well, I've already gone through being a caregiver, why do I have to do it again? I found it, for me the struggle was I found it a bit unfair of life, that life was asking this of me again. But yes, this is what life was asking me, and try to just do it as good as I can. Not perfect, make mistakes, but I do try to take care of you. And I did actually do a bit of training to become a nurse. I found it emotionally too heavy. So at the moment I am doing a study for medical imaging and radiation therapy. And sometimes it also, at school, the lessons about cancer or lessons about radiation therapy of total body radiation therapy, which I know you're going to have pretty soon, they are very difficult for me to get through those lessons. I get through them, I make my notes, and I have to study it because it's just part of my study. My job requires medical imaging, so I started at the x-rays, and I like it. I like the study part. I like learning new things. I like the medical world. I do like. But also at the same time, the medical world sometimes overlaps my situation at home, and then I do notice there's a bit of a conflict inside of me about it.
Can you elaborate a bit more on, because being someone who's always been in the medical world, and then having to be a caregiver for a sick person, how does that medical world either help or hinder? But can you also maybe talk about how being a caregiver affects your actual work?
Yeah. Well, being in the medical world, it does help. I do understand things quicker, like with you, when your cancer cells started mutating, I understood quite quick what the doctor was trying to tell us. And I understand that you have to have total body radiation therapy. It's just, it freaks me out. Also, it's a big hinder knowing all these things in the medical world and knowing too much, I believe, because I do know what can go wrong, and I'm more aware of difficult scenarios and situations and everything that can go wrong. And that sometimes is really hard. And also like knowing what to say to you and what not. I try to be open and transparent and tell you everything. But then again, if the doctor doesn't tell you certain risks, who am I to tell them? But I do know them, and they play a role in the back of my mind, and that sometimes scares me and freaks me out.
Yeah, to give an idea of that play between between the caregiver and also medical world.
Yeah.
Perhaps you can tell about the day that I went for the MRI, and and then you actually saw my scans and what you saw, and then how you approached me to tell me what was going on.
So I'm doing this study now, imaging, yes. And I'm not that far in the study. I'm now a second year student, and I love it, but I don't know everything. And this was a situation what Ger had that does not occur very often. So I saw the scan, the MRI scan, and we had scanned him from like mid-torso to just halfway his diabetes.
Down the hips, down the thighs. Maybe we should also mention the reason why we did that is I had an unexplained pain when walking in my hip, and I never really couldn't recognize the pain, so I thought it was maybe a nerve pain of sorts, and so we said we do an MRI to get an idea of what the nerves are doing.
Yeah.
That's why we had the MRI the day.
And how the symptoms of him were presenting themselves really came across as nerve pain. So I was thinking a pinched nerve maybe, but then again I'm not a doctor, so we had to check up on this. And he got the scan. First they scanned the patient without any contrast, and then they scanned the patient with contrast, and then if it's a nerve problem, the contrast helps to see where the problem lies. But I had gone through the machine without contrast, and we pulled him out, and we wanted to give him the contrast, which goes via a drip. But he wasn't really, his veins have been really had a tough time with all the chemos lately, so his veins were really difficult to actually put a drip in. And it wasn't working. We were trying both hands, arms, at a certain point my colleague wants to give him a drip via the feet, because if it's necessary we can do it via veins in the legs and the feet. And it was too much for him. So I saw he was freaking out, and I saw he was tired, and I saw he had enough of it, and he just wanted to go home. He wanted to go lie on bed, and he was in pain. I saw it, but at the same time I wanted a good diagnosis so he would have a good treatment, the best treatment. So I just kept on pushing to get the contrast in him and to place the drip. And at a certain point he did tell me, I said no. I don't know exactly how you said it, but I said something like, I said no, you're my wife now. And you even said, you're my wife, you're not a nurse now. Yeah. And I was like, yes, but at the same time, because I thought it was a nerve problem, I knew the radiologist needed the contrast in order to get the best diagnosis. So at that point I was really torn, and it was really difficult to know which role I had to take on, actually. Yeah.
Okay, so in the end it was okay we didn't do the contrast, because what we found out was what had actually happened was at that point I had a large build of leukemia in my bone marrow, but none in the blood, and in one shot all the leukemia cells were sent out of my bones, and it sort of goes like this, boom, and everything was out. So my bones were actually pretty cracked and brittle, and very little fluid was in the bone marrow. And when they had a look at it, they could see that there were a lot of cracks, and that's where the pain in the hip came. I'd actually fractured the hip from some other movement, and that's what the pain was. So in the end, it was okay. I didn't have the contrast, but there is a battle when you want good care, but you also, while you're limited by your body, you're also sometimes limited in your emotions and your mind, and those type of things that have to play a role.
But even, you know, with you, I've also noticed, even with the fracturing hip, you kept on walking. You were in pain. I saw that. And sometimes you did need a wheelchair, but most of the time you just kept on walking. So for me now, I know you had a fracture in your hip actually. I'm actually like, wow, he must have been in so much pain. Why did he keep on walking? But then again, you and I both tend to just keep going.
And I will point out, I was on 6 different pain meds at the time, so and I still had pain, so, but it's understandable why in hindsight.
Yeah.
Another question, can you talk about the difficulty of being a caregiver, but especially maybe some practical things, but also the emotional side, the struggles as a caregiver you have to go through caring for people?
Well, emotionally you get really tired. That's something I notice. I'm easily tired. I deal with fatigue a lot. Of course, I'm doing a lot as well. I mean, I study and I work and I take care of you. So I do have quite a busy life. But I know a lot of it is also emotionally fatigue. Sometimes
to give them an idea of what it's going to be like, explain what your next week is going to be like, just sort of the day planning, then they can get an idea of how busy it gets.
Well, Monday and Tuesday I work. Wednesday I go with you to Amsterdam to
discuss the transplant.
Yeah, to discuss the transplant, which will also take a whole day. And Monday evening we have my family, which we're doing something nice with. Then Thursday I have a test, big test coming up. I have to study a lot.
Studied in the free time between the work and the driving to Amsterdam.
I studied this morning, and I'll probably study a little bit more this afternoon. And I'll study tomorrow as well, on Sunday. I don't really get a day off, to be honest, that I completely do nothing. But I try to, on weekends, do have a couple of hours that, you know, I can just do whatever I want to do, basically. So yeah, Thursday is a big test in Haarlem, which is in a different city in Holland, which is about 2-hour drive, but that's if traffic is good. Like in the last week, we had one day we actually, I say we because I drive together with a colleague, and in the morning it took us 3.5 hours to get to school. Missed the first lesson, unfortunately. So it's anywhere between 2 and 3 hours, basically, the driving, and that's one way. So then the way back also takes a lot of time, and then the whole day at school. So yeah, I'm most of the time I'm tired, and emotionally tired, of course, because giving care is. It's not that I have to do a lot for you, except for go with you to appointments, maybe.
I need to be driven around because I don't drive. I actually don't drive a lot because of sometimes the meds don't always allow you to. And at the moment, from the chemo, I've lost the feeling in my hands and feet, and it's awkward.
If he's on painkillers, I won't let him drive, and because of his bones are brittle now, I will not let him carry heavy stuff, and that includes the trash. So like heavy stuff around the house, carrying things up and down the stairs, or cleaning out the trash, I do. Cleaning out the cat litter box, I do, because
I'm not allowed because of the lowered immune system. Yeah,
I don't want him to come in contact with cat litter. And I try to make sure you eat healthy. We sometimes have a little bit of
to give you the idea,
strife on that.
Tessera bought this superfoods mix thing that you mix into your drinks. Yeah. And
it's like a green powder.
It looks like green slime. It doesn't matter what you mix it in. It looks like green slime.
It's not slime. It's just a green drink.
And it doesn't. As it looks like, and it doesn't taste great. But it's supposed to have a lot of healthy extra nutrients.
Yeah.
But I mean, I do take extra vitamin supplements. I've started taking extra vitamin C. I
Yes.
take magnesium. So thank you for watching. Hope you guys all have a good day. God bless and keep well.